Morning guys, it's the Swordfish once again with some more Dota 2 gameplay. This time I'm playing as Earthshaker, the last of the Earthshakers actually, because this is the last clip from this game. I'm sorry, don't cry, start wanking instead of crying, you know, that always helps me at least after breakups. Haha, wink wink. Anyway, let's get on to the commentary today because nobody gives a shit about Dota anyway. Let's talk about current events. And obviously, if I'm talking about current events, you guys can guess that I'm going to be talking about Ukraine and Venezuela, obviously. And yes, I said Venezuela. Are you guys not aware of what's happening in Venezuela? I'm not surprised. There's no news coverage of it. And this is something which I am really pissed off about. I don't find it fair to the Venezuelan people. And trust me, I'm the biggest South American racist here. In fucking Spain, South Americans are the scum of the earth. No, I'm kidding. But in all honesty, I am not a supporter of the Venezuelans or of their people. I've never been interested in their bullshit. You know, I've never had any interest of going to South America, but I find it really unfair to the population of Venezuela that their issues are not getting televised. And yes, I understand shit is going down in Ukraine, and Russia just invaded Ukraine. Yeah, I get it, okay? It's pretty serious. But at the same time, the issues in Venezuela, I would say, are definitely more important than the issues in Ukraine. And let me explain why. The issues in Venezuela are death and, you know, general unsafety and some just the fucking basic human rights being completely not, you know, they're just being completely ignored. And yes, Ukraine has problems similar to that, but not to the same extent. And more importantly, the biggest issue that Ukraine has is that they never actually made the full transition. And I'm speaking from a country that has had the same issue as Ukraine, it still does, though maybe a little better in terms of economy, because Spain used to be part of a fascist dictatorship. We never made the full transition. I'm telling you, if you meet any Spaniard who says that politics here is just completely uncorrupt and whatever, he's a fucking lying cunt, or he's not actually Spanish. Anyone Spanish will tell you that, or any smart Spanish person will tell you that Spain never made the full transition from a fascist government to a normal government, to a democratic government. That's an issue. We still have parties which would support the fascist dictatorship. This is amazing to me. But, you know, a country that did this right was Germany. And I don't agree with banning things like Wolfenstein, and freedom of speech is really important. But at the same time, I do completely agree with banning freedom of speech temporarily, just enough so that people could, you know, adjust to the new system of government, to the new democracy, and so that fascism and any sort of dictatorship could be eliminated completely from the country. Those thoughts could be eliminated from the country. Nazis are not fucking seen in Germany. They're not even a party. They're not part of the German people. And that's great. That's something we should have done too. And Ukraine is having some of the same problems that we are. They never quite eliminated the whole Soviet influence that they had, even despite their independence. It wasn't their fault. It was definitely Russia's fault. But, you know, that doesn't mean that Ukraine couldn't have done something better. But I'm not here to criticize Ukraine. I'm here to talk about their problem. And their problem really is that they never fully eliminated the ties to the Soviet Union. And part of their government still had ties to the Soviet Union, which obviously led to corruption and stuff. And don't worry, I am not like an anti-communist like the American retards. No, but I do not support the Soviet Union ideal. Obviously, Stalin was an asshole. He was a fucking murderer, genocide no. He massacred thousands of Ukrainians, maybe not through weaponry, but definitely through the starving of Ukraine. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll definitely make a video about this. Just write in the comments below. Ask about the famine, the Great Famine that happened in Ukraine. Say, I don't know what that is, if you can't keep on to search Wikipedia. And I will honestly make a video about it, informing you guys especially because I know a lot about this topic specifically. But anyway, that's not what I was here to talk about. Stalin was an asshole, Stalin was a killer, and definitely his government should be completely eliminated, right? That's pretty fucking basic stuff here. But more importantly, not only that, but, you know, to be honest, it not only should his government be eliminated because he was an asshole, but also it was a dictatorship. And that's the problem Ukraine is facing now. But I think the problem in Venezuela is much more grave than that. And, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. That's actually not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is the differences, not between the problems, but between how the people in Ukraine and Venezuela are dealing with these issues. And I think it's very interesting to compare these two fronts because they're actually very different. I understand Ukraine is getting world coverage, okay, and I completely agree that Venezuela should get the same world coverage. Not saying they should get more. despite the problems being, even though I do consider that Venezuela is having more issues than Ukraine, it does not mean that I don't think Ukraine deserves the same coverage that Venezuela does. But definitely they both deserve some fucking media coverage. It's ludicrous. I find it ridiculous, the fact that Venezuela is just completely in the dark and nobody seems to know about it. And it's I'm amazed at how we can be reporting on fucking Kim Kardashian's new outfit, but we're not reporting on Venezuela's basic violation of human rights. I find it amazing. But the difference between Ukraine and Venezuela, though, is that they both have an issue. They both have an issue at hand. But how they're dealing with the issue is so very different. Actually, though, if you actually look at how they're dealing with the issue, if you've actually had any documentaries in which they actually go inside the country and talk to the people, Ukraine is a huge united front. That's what amazes me the most. Ukraine is a huge united front. Okay, they're all fighting against the tyranny. Okay, they're all against the fucking fascist. Sorry, the fucking corrupt dictatorship and all that. You know, I wouldn't say it. They're all against the corruption. That's for sure, right? They're completely against it, and like there's the weirdest combination of people. You have liberals who are singing songs and being hippies, you know, and they are fighting alongside neo-Nazis, which is like, wow, I've never seen this before. I've never seen liberals fighting with Nazis before. Why? Because they all want the same goal, to make Ukraine free. And once Ukraine is free, then they can start organizing their own government, right? Venezuela, on the other hand, has three factions. They have the students who just simply want Venezuela to be safe. It would be like what Ukraine is doing as a whole. Then they have the two political parties, the Chavistas and the opposition. Obviously, that's pretty obvious. Chavistas support Chavez and his old policies, and the opposition supports the opposition. I think it's pretty self-explanatory in that sense. And these two models are actually very interesting. And before, I used to think Ukraine is doing this right, because they're fighting against their main problem first, you know, the corruption, all the violation of human rights, how the police are treating them, and then they're fighting against, you know, they're kind of solving the politics and stuff like that. But I realized it's not true. Each system has pros and cons, and you have to decide which one you want to use. And let me explain this. So, from a very obvious standpoint, the Venezuelan system seems like a stupid system. Everyone fighting against each other for stupid political ideals which mean nothing, because the security of the citizens is not ensured, right? So obviously you want to support you just want to get rid of the main issue. You want to make sure that there's freedom of speech, that the country is safe, etc., etc. Right? Yeah. From my idealistic standpoint, this is a beautiful idea. It's much better than anything else. That's what Ukraine is kind of doing. But at the same time, what the students are saying in Venezuela, which are students would be like the Ukrainian people, I guess, because the students in Venezuela are actually just have no political agenda or anything of the sort. You know, what they're doing is saying, you know, we don't want the position of power and stuff like that. But they're being very naive in the sense that they believe that nobody has to hold the position of power. But they do. At some point in the country, someone has to hold a position of power. And they will have more power than everyone else. I don't give a shit how many little fucking revolutions you want to make. They will have fucking power. It's that simple. There's nothing more to it. So you can either accept this fact and try to fight it out like the Venezuelans are doing. You know, try to have their different factions. Or you can kind of just join up and attempt to see who ends up, you know, by a lottery pick, who ends up getting the power. Like in Ukraine. Because when Ukraine manages to defeat their common enemy, which is a nice thing, obviously, because Ukraine will have freedom of speech, no more corruption, who will get to lead Ukraine? Will it be the neo-Nazis? Because this happened in Egypt. When Egypt had the revolution, who got to lead the fucking Egypt? The Muslim Brotherhood. What did that lead to? More corruption. Another fucking another revolution by the military. By the fucking military. Like, wow. Imagine that happened in Ukraine. That wouldn't be good at all. You know? You know, what I'm trying to say here is, if Ukraine had this same issue, and they got completely dominated. They completely dominated. They solved all the issues, and then the neo-Nazis got to power. Would that be actually better for Ukraine? Would that be good? If the extreme right-wing party, got to power, that wouldn't be better for Ukraine. They'd be having a racist political agenda in power. Racist political parties saying, yeah, woo, neo-Nazism, woo, and then people would support them because they supported the cause, right? So obviously this isn't the way to go, because you have to make sure that once they get into power, you have someone who can rule fairly and democratically, and maybe neo-Nazis are definitely not the people to do so. But on the other hand, you have the Venezuelan issue, which they're so obsessed with their political agendas that they can't confront the common issue which they have, which is a lack of security and freedom of speech, and lack of freedom of speech, actually, in their country. So you have these two complete different ways of confronting these issues, but neither of them will yield the best results. And obviously, we can't just decide on a party saying, okay, you will be the party that everyone will support, because the political agenda is obviously subjective. I personally don't want religion. I want a secular government that's not a neo-Nazi government, but many people might think otherwise. So you can't get everyone to support these good governments because these good governments will be either left-wing or right-wing, that's for sure. And I mean, I understand why there would be clashes between this, because not everyone supported left-wing government, but not everyone supported right-wing government either. So, I guess the best choice in this case would be just to pick a party which is not so extreme, which never works in revolutions, by the way. Revolutions always picks the extremes. The extremes are what get power in revolutions. Read anything about Hitler and you'll realize why. So a revolution starts with extremist parties, but the ideal situation of a revolution is that who gets power after the revolution is the center party, is a kind of middle party that doesn't really have much of a political agenda, but can have like a temporary government and is eventually just taking over when everything has calmed down. But this is unrealistic, and I mean, this will never happen. So what do we do? What do we do? What way do we go? If you want to have a revolution in your country, what do you go? The Ukrainian way? Do you confront the common issue and then deal with the political issues that might arise from that? And just everyone join in together despite other stupid political agenda? Or racist, or just not secular, these bad political agendas, I would consider them. Even if political views are obviously subjective, there are certain views which should not be accepted in the 21st century. In my opinion. Or do you go the Venezuelan way, in which everyone tries to fight for the political party, and whoever wins kind of wins the whole lot, and that ensures that at least there's a political party which is acceptable in ruling in power because they have the majority, so they're at least acceptable. They're not too far off right, too far off left either. But at the same time, this method will never get you to confront the problem at hand, and will just get a shifting of power in the government, but never actually confronting the issue of lack of safety and lack of freedom of speech. Well, where do you go? That's for you guys to choose, and for you guys to debate in the comments, obviously, because hopefully at least someone will comment this video. And rate, subscribe, whatever, so and so. If you like the commentary today, I'm hoping to do more current events. I definitely want to talk about history and do some analysis of the Ukrainian famine, and in Hitler's rise to power, as opposed to Ukraine and Venezuela. So I'll wait for those. Definitely watch for those, because that's gonna be interesting. And thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed the commentary today. And always remember to not be oppressed, guys, and to think critically and outside the box. No solution, no real problem can be solved with a simple solution or a simple revolution. Everything has multiple levels of depths, and everything has a good and a bad side. And you have to decide if the pros ever outweigh the cons. And most importantly, guys, I'll see you guys next time. As long as you subscribe. Please subscribe. Please! Love you guys. See ya.